Hello, fam. This is me, MG, the Reimagined Strategist. Welcome to the Reimagine You Lab podcast. And you guys know that I am super excited tonight because we are into season 2. Can you guys believe this? I can't even believe that it's already been a year. I can't even believe it. And I also want to thank you guys because you guys have been amazing. We have hit 15,000 on Instagram. We've gotten over 10,000 on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, even Google Podcasts. I was like, what? I can't believe it. So I just have to tell y'all, thank you. You guys have made this an amazing year, and I just love you. And so make sure that you share the podcast with your friends, your family, your clients, co-workers. Make sure you share it with them. And don't forget, if you haven't already, but I know y'all do because it's 15,000 people that already have hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button so that you'll get the notification every time a new episode drops. And every Friday, there's a new episode ready for you. Now, all the housekeeping out the way. Let me just tell y'all, I've got an amazing young lady that is in with me on today, and you guys are going to be thrilled with her. I mean, me and her were doing so much talking on back before we even getting started on the show that I got to hurry up and bring her in here because I was like, I better hit the record, but we're going to run out of time and nobody's going to have heard the interview. So we had to get it in. So I want to welcome DrRoz.
I am so delighted to be with you. I've listened to your podcast, and so I would have picked you out of a lineup. Like your face matches your voice perfectly, and you are exactly what I imagined you would look like. And so I did not have to reimagine you. I had imagined you, and there you are. So I am so thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Well, I am so glad to have you. Now, DrRoz, before we jump all the way in, because I feel like we just got through talking about the Margaritaville cruise and in the pool. And so I feel like before we dive in, I want you, because I know you can do this because you are ready to do this. And I see your little pose picture behind you over there. So DrRoz, tell them who you are, where you're at, what you do, and then we're going to have a conversation. That sound good?
Sounds fabulous. Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I am a founder of DebtFreeDegree with DrRoz, and I teach students how to create wealth by graduating fully debt-free with any degree. I have just published my debt-free degree book. It was published on July 15th. And this little poster that you see here, I had a book signing earlier today. And so these were the posters that I had there. And I've got a couple of other book signings in the future. And so I went ahead and did that. And I love teaching students and families how to love yourself enough to graduate fully debt-free. And I love tying debt-free degree to Kingy and nonviolence. And I know that we'll get into a little bit more of that in a little bit. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of my arc. And as she said, we could probably sit here for another 4 hours because I love hanging out with you already.
We're going to have us a good time. And we're going to learn. You guys are going to learn a lot because when we come into the Reimagine You Lab, we're talking about change. And I know that with her saying debt-free degree.
That's right.
Somebody saying, what? I can get my degree debt-free?
Yes.
There's a school. Listen, can I send my kids to school and they can get their degrees free? Like, you know what? That's what we want. We want them to come out without debt. So we definitely want to get into all of that, DrRoz. So DrRoz, tell us, because I always like to know, what was it? How'd you get started? Girl, where'd you come from? What you been doing?
So there's two answers to that question. Number one, I'll talk about the debt-free degree piece, and then I'll talk about the Martin Luther King piece. So in 2005, I had taken a new position at an institution, and I started hearing students say, I took the maximum amount of loans that I could take. And I said, why would you do that? And some of them were paying their tuition and fees and things with it. Some of them were buying cars. Some of them were living off of it. Some of them were partying off of it. And I kept saying, you're going to have to pay this money back. And at that time, I believe all the loans were subsidized, which in, when I talk to students about this, it's basically like a mortgage in the fact that you don't pay anything until you graduate. And then you have set payments. You know exactly how many payments it is and exactly how much that amount is every month until you pay it off. Then we went to, there's some unsubsidized loans out there, and those are a little bit more like credit cards. So those you start accruing interest immediately, and you accrue interest, every month. And so I started hearing these students talking about, again, this is, almost 20 years ago. I've got $15,000 in debt. I've got 20,000, 35,000. And I said, y'all got to pay that back. And, at that time, you could buy a really nice car for, $20,000. And so that's what I was equating it to, or, a down payment to a home. So fast forward, I just interviewed, I have a video series entitled, Dang, I Wish I Knew You When I Went to College. And it's over on my YouTube channel. And it's because that's what I often hear when people hear what I do. They're like, they say, I wish I knew you then. Yes. And I interviewed this lady, and she graduated over 20 years ago. She had $75,000 in debt. And at the time that we did our interview, she owed $64,000. And she had paid every month for over 20 years. And she still owed $64,000. Now, that debt was forgiven because she went to one of those institutions that they said it was predatory. So her debt was forgiven, but there are a lot of people out there with $65,000 in debt, and it's not
at least.
So so that's the debt-free degree piece. And I don't know if you want me to stop there, Michelle, or you want me to share
tell them about the nonviolent stuff, because that's the stuff that's what I got on you.
Yes,
degree is new.
So for those of you that are watching, you see that I'm white. For those of you that are listening, I don't know if you could tell that I was white, and I am from the South. And growing up in white Southern America, I did not even know. I only grew up about an hour and a half from the King Center. I didn't even know it existed until 2018.
What?
I had no idea. The only thing I knew about Dr. King was I have a dream speech where I was taught explicitly and implicitly to just whitewash everything. We just don't see race. We just don't see color. We'll just kumbaya, everybody get along. And so I started with Cornel West and his book, Race Matters. And I read that when I was getting my PhD, and that started me on my journey. And it's what I call unlearning and relearning. And I just kept taking the next step, and I just kept taking the next step. And I have family members on both my mom and my dad's side who are exceptionally proud that we have relatives who fought for the Confederacy. My great grandfather, so that's not that many generations, he fought for the Confederacy. And so it was just something that was just kind of, this is what we do, and we're proud of our heritage. And I kept learning, and I kept thinking that it's not adding up for me. It's not mathing. And so as I continued learning, I found the King Center on Twitter. And this was early in 2018. And they announced that they were going to have a 2-day orientation to Dr. King's philosophy in April of that year. And so I think I was the first one that signed up. I was so eager. I just had to go. Again, and at this point, I'm living in a suburb of Atlanta, again, having no idea that the King Center existed. And so it was like 45 minutes from my house. So I go and I attend this 2-day orientation, and I knew immediately. I have a mentor who said, our identity is where we put the dent in the universe. And I knew
I like that.
Sitting at the King Center that my dent was to teach nonviolence around the world the rest of my days. I just had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like.
Right.
So I, bought several books and started, reading Dr. King, and somehow, some way. And so, anybody that's listening, you do not know how it is that the universe, God, whatever it is, your higher power is going to reorganize things for you. So some way, somehow, some question that I asked in April of 2018 at this orientation made Dr. Bernice King, who is the CEO of the King Center, and Dr. King and Mrs. King's youngest daughter, sent me an email. And of course, we all get emails from famous people that obviously didn't write the email, right? And so Dr. Bernice King. I'm like, and then I open up Dear Elizabeth. Oh yeah, I'm sure she typed that out. Oh, well, come to find out she did. And
really?
said, I embellish my father's philosophy around the world. I'm assembling a training team. Are you interested? And I thought to myself, who says no to Dr. Bernice King? Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, I'm interested. And so I didn't know if she'd asked 100 people, 1,000 people. She asked 10 of us. There are 10 certified trainers.
Really?
And then 3 certified trainers and then her. So there's only 14 of me in the world. I'm the only one who had 0 relationship with her before she asked me to be a trainer, other than meeting her at this orientation. I'm also the only one who is not African American. So
wait a minute, girl, that is incredible. Did she ever say what it was about you that drew her to
the way I put together information and the way that I asked questions during the orientation that made her? Now, one thing I will say, she is deeply spiritual. And mother had probably the most keen sense of discernment. And Dr. Bernice shares that with her mother. And when she asked me, I was like, of course, blah, 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 that would be so nice. Now that I've been with her, since, like I said, 2018, I know that God himself must have said, you need to ask her, because she is so methodical and she doesn't do anything, without deep prayer and deep contemplation. And again, she was really taking a chance on me because she didn't know me. And I didn't understand it quite as much then as I do now. Just, the chance that she took on me. So
that is incredible. I love that story. I'm glad that you shared that too, because, a lot of times you don't know where life or what path you're going to take, or whose path you're going to come before. And it was orchestrated. It was orchestrated.
It was
amazing.
It was
amazing. It's amazing. Well, tell me, because I love to talk about change. That's what we change here. Dr. King was a change agent. Man, he was a change maker. He made such a difference in the lives of so many people.
Yes.
Dr. Roz, tell me, what would you say was the biggest change that changed you? What was that?
Sitting at the King Center. It was hearing about nonviolence, because at that point I did have a very strong faith tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I was grateful, and I remain exceptionally grateful for my faith tradition with my higher power. What Kingian nonviolence did, is it gave me a methodology and a philosophy that undergirds it, that just gives it feet. And so now I have these 6 principles that I attempt to live my life by, that I don't do perfectly any day, but I attempt to. And then we have 6 steps to addressing conflict. And so one of them is, making sure that I am seeking to defeat injustice, not people. That I'm choosing love instead of hate. And so that's why I believe that Debt-Free Degree is a form of nonviolence, because what we're doing is we are revolutionizing the higher education funding industry. My favorite quote by Dr. King, and it's why the overarching umbrella name of my company is Love Revolution. And one aspect of it is Debt-Free Degree. And if you look at love and then the word revolution, it's REVOL. So love is backwards in revolution.
It is.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it is. I had never even paid attention to that. So I'm leaning in. I'm learning here.
Yes. So Dr. King says that a social movement that moves merely people is a revolt, but a social movement that transforms both people and institutions is a revolution. Debt-Free Degree is a revolution, because we are altering personal and generational wealth. We're going to grow both personal and generational wealth. So we're not going to graduate with this debt, and then we are going to graduate into a job that we love. And then we have all of that money, because one of the things that I often say to my students is, when you're taking that loan, somebody else is making money.
Right.
And all money is OPM. I know y'all know what OPM is, right?
Other people's money.
But all money's OPM, right? So if I sit here and I win the lottery, then I've gotten, tax money from somebody else. If I sit here and I exchange my time and talent for somebody to pay me money, then that's their money. If I inherit money, I'm inheriting it from somebody else, other people's money. So every dollar that's out there is other people's money. There's $46 billion in grants and scholarships out there to help people go to college. And I'm just not aware of that much money out there to help me buy a home or to help me buy a car. So if I can help you avoid student loan debt so that you can then go buy these assets, that's how you grow generational wealth.
No, I love that. You know what? Generational wealth is something that people really need to learn more about. I think about communities. I think about the African American community that I'm from. And if we are not focusing on or paying attention to, it's very easy for it to get away from us. And it's like, okay, how do I stop the holes in pockets? How do I leave a legacy?
Right.
How do I leave something more, something better than debt behind? Let me leave money behind. So how many students have you worked with over the course of time that you've been helping people with this? Give me a rough number.
I would say a rough number would be 5,000, maybe something like that. Because I do free webinars every single month, and I actually am doing a webinar series for an international corporation, and that's not until a few weeks after we're recording this podcast, but I already have 247 people registered for that webinar series. And so it's just anywhere I can get this word out, then that's what I want to do. So the one way that I want to reimagine what it looks like for a debt-free degree, it's something, and I didn't coin this phrase. So whoever came up with it, and I've tried to Google it and I can't find it, but it's not an Elizabeth thing. So I always want to give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
This idea of a human algorithm. So this human algorithm of, oh, my brother has debt. Most of my public school teachers have debt. My parents might have student loan debt. It's in the news about student loan debt. It's just this constant cacophony of just take the loans and figure out how to pay it off later. So what I want to do is reimagine those conversations. And I want to have debt-free degree clubs at every middle school and high school in every community in the nation. And I've already planted one. It's in Washington State. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So we are, in fact, nationwide. And I'm looking for 9 other groups who want to pilot it this year.
Okay.
And then I will write my second book, which is how to start and keep a debt-free degree club going. Because while earning your degree is absolutely individual, it's also 100% communal. Because there's nobody that earns a degree in a vacuum. You have to have people around you. And so that's that interconnection piece.
No, I love that. So, well, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about that, because there's people tuning in and listening. And so what are the requirements for these 9 other groups that you want? What's the requirements? What are you looking for in groups to do this with you?
The requirements are that you're going to commit to some sort of regularly scheduled meeting. So some might be once a month, and that's fine. Some might be once a week. I've got 52 weeks of curriculum. And so for those that want to meet, every single week, then that's great. I've got stuff for you. There's a pledge that they'll say. There's a whole, structure to the meetings, and it is that they will commit to meeting regularly and working towards a debt-free degree. And the group that, and this is surprising to a lot of people, but the group that I'm most interested in, not that the others are not invited in, but the groups that I'm most interested in are middle school students. Because number one, you can start earning scholarships in 5th grade. And like you said, get them early, because if I can get them in the mindset in middle school that they will not take debt to graduate from college, every one of them will graduate debt free. Yeah. If you say to me, we all just did this graduation cruise, and 3 of them are heading to college, and all of them are looking at taking 50 grand in loans this semester, there's not a whole lot I can do to help them today. Right. What I can do, though, is start working with them so that maybe next semester, or certainly the next year, they're also not taking loans. But what happens, Michelle, is there are students that just go, I just have no clue how much $100,000 is or $200,000 is. And so
Mhm.
I'll just figure it out. I just, and they're not really putting those steps in to really have those conversations of
Yeah,
what is the ROI.
absolutely. And I always think of ROI as it's not only the return on investment, but it's also the return on in action. If you don't do anything,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
have something that
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want. Like
Yes.
everybody wants that return on the investment, but like, hey, if
Yes.
you don't take any action now, no,
Yes.
I love it. I love that. I love it. I think it's really good. So talk us through this, girl. Listen, I needed to just book you for 2 shows. So then we talk about debt-free degree on one, and then we talk about nonviolence on the other. So I'm
Yes.
trying to smush them both in here.
I'll come back. I would be delighted to come back as often as you'll have me.
I love it. I love it. So when you're thinking about you're a part of this group, this with Dr. King, I mean, like, this is amazing. When you with Dr. King's daughter picking
Yes.
you out, I just got through taking a group of women to St. Kitts for a self-care retreat, and it's called Chosen. And so I believe that you were chosen. There are times when you picked out. And
Yes.
so when I think about that, talk to me a little bit about the things that you guys are doing and how you are working with people and kind of what that looks like, how people, how with what the work that you do, how is it helping other people change their lives?
Oh, I love this question. Love this question. So, as I mentioned, started the certified training program in fall of 18, became certified in spring of 19. In June of 21, the COO, who is also one of the certified trainers, called and said, "We have a project. We are taking the curriculum that Mrs. King developed, and we want to make it asynchronous and online. And we need a project manager." It was a $13 million project with the King Center and a corporation who was undergirding it. And they said, "We need a project manager. Are you interested?" I was like, absolutely. So I was under contract with them for 3 years. In fact, my third contract just ended at the end of June. And so under those contracts, we took the entire curriculum and made it asynchronous. And when I tell you, I mean, I taught in college. I am not about some sort of boring, just, going through the online course.
I'm with you.
Engaging. We have the letter from Birmingham jail and Dr. King's pilgrimage, and we have it annotated. So you can go through and click on passages, and then out will pop a video where Dr. Bernice King is saying, "What my daddy was saying was this," or, the trainers were say this. Andrew Young, I sat there while Andrew Young did all of his interviews, and it was 3 hours. And we kind of laughed because the gentleman who was interviewing him, I think basically said, "Who can you introduce yourself, Ambassador Young, on the film?" I think he talked for like 30 minutes without taking a breath. It was just like, and all of us were just so just leaned in. I mean, just to have this information. So that is available on the King Center website. Everybody can go and take this course. It's $199. Then we were hearing around the world, we want access to this. So then we translated it into 6 additional languages. So now 1/3 of the world has access to Kingian. Then corporations said, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is fabulous. We absolutely love it." And it is 18 hours of content. And that's a bit steep for us to ask our employees to do as personal development. And so, can you do a shortened, condensed version? And so then we release what we call the workplace edition. It's about 3.5 hours. And it all of the examples in there are all based in the workplace. So it might be a 5-person nonprofit, it might be an international corporation, or anything in between, but they're all examples in the workplace. So to be involved with a project where 2/3 of the world has access to Martin Luther King is probably something. As much as I dream about Debt Free Degree, as much as I want a club in every community in the nation, I'm not sure that anything I'll do with Debt Free Degree will change the trajectory like giving access to the world in King and Nonviolence.
Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible. That, you know what, and it sounds like fun work. Like, I mean, like listening to, you know, like tuning into those interviews and some of the most pivotal, I mean, the most interesting and pivotal people that work with Dr. King, work with the nonviolence movement, in all the years that they did. Like, girl, I'm gonna have to go and take the course now. Like, I didn't even know it was available. So this is you've got me.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for getting that word out. Yes.
Absolutely. So when I think about, you know, I always ask people when they come on the show, I always ask, you know, what was the biggest thing that changed you? But I also like to ask, you know, what do you tell other people about change? Tell me, what do you tell other people? Because a lot of times people are afraid to change. I believe change is a choice.
Oh, 100%. Yes. I tell you what else is a choice, Michelle. And this is where you thinking about what could I change or what could I reimagine? Yes. Love is a choice.
It is.
It is one of the principles of nonviolence. We choose love instead of hate. Love is a choice. Now, when I am thinking about and teaching about Kingian nonviolence, the definition that we use is nonviolence is a love-centered way of thinking, speaking, engaging, and acting. It leads to personal and then cultural and then societal transformation. So it starts with me, which is often our theme for King Holiday, is it starts with me. And Dr. Bernice has released a book, you'll see it back here, that's called It Starts With Me. Now, when Elizabeth is teaching for Love Revolution, just in Dr. Roz, you know, umbrella, the definition I use for love is letting others voluntarily evolve.
That is good. Letting others.
When I say, Michelle, how do you lead with love? How are you demonstrating love to yourself? Because we have to let ourselves voluntarily evolve. We are not, I mean, I'm certainly not where I want to be. I'm, you know, very thankful I'm not where I used to be, but I'm also not, you know, I'm not fully evolved. And I hope until my very last breath that I say that I'm not fully evolved. I hope I'm never so arrogant that I say, got there, done that, I'm good now, I'm fabulous. No, it's constantly learning, constantly thinking about how to be love-centered. You know, one of the stories I talk about oftentimes when I'm teaching for the King Center is when I was little, I was spanked with a wooden spoon. And I thought that was a kinder, nicer way than, you know, getting a switch or like my husband's mom used a Hot Wheels track. And one day, 25, we were on the playground and he threw sand at this little boy and hurt him. And so I didn't want to embarrass my son in front of these people. So I took him behind the tree and spanked him. And I looked at him in the eye and I was like, we do not do that to other people.
Right.
What I did is I inflicted violence on my son to teach him that we don't inflict violence on other people.
Right.
But I hadn't thought about it because I was just doing what I had been done to me. And what so much of what we do, we just kind of do without thinking. You know, I wish I had found nonviolence before I'd ever had Alexander. And I've told him that many, many, many times. And how is it that we can meet somebody where they are, love them fully, where they are, and then let them voluntarily evolve? That's the love, and that's the transformation. And so that's when people talk about, you know, how do we reimagine and how do we impact change? You know, if we've got 8 billion people who are love-centered in their thinking, then there is no more war.
Yeah.
There is no more we're going to take out free lunch. There is no more we're going to criminalize folks who are unhoused. You know, there's none of that because we're love-centered, because we understand. And Dr. King said this. He said, Michelle can't be all she is to be until Elizabeth is all she is to be, and vice versa.
Right.
We're all interconnected.
Absolutely. No, I love that. You know, and you said something as you were sharing there, and actually you said that at the top of the show, but you talked about unlearning.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, that if we can admit, that, hey, maybe what I did, or how I grew up, or God, mom and dad may have been wrong about this or that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But to go back and then to say, you know what, I am going to unlearn this so that I can reimagine what's new, or reimagine it in a different way, change my perspective, change the trajectory potentially of my life and the life of other people.
Right.
And being able to do that, sometimes
Right.
it starts with, saying, hey, this wasn't necessarily the way. I needed to unlearn this. And
Yes.
I love that. I love whenever somebody says that word, and I always, it's like a trigger word for me.
Yes.
I like,
Yes.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that is one of those things. Elizabeth, and you're so right about, having that structure and that method of loving all 8 billion people on the planet.
That's right.
So talk to us a little bit about when you think about that, like that when you got in that heart space, because I think you have to really get into a heart space where you're there, where you're willing to go there and take others with you. How'd you get there? How did you know? What was the moment for you?
So I will say, in respect and deep love to you, MG, because this is your show, and so I mean this respectfully, that I'm not correcting you, and I might say to you, it's not that I went into a heart space; it's that I went into a head space.
Okay.
Because
so
emotion is coming and going, and we can't control our emotions. When we spend all this time saying, I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm not upset about that, we're not acknowledging what's bubbling up. Where our choice is our reaction to those emotions. So the choice for somebody, so I've had other people say, gosh, you must just carry just the weight of that. And they're kind of like hunched over. And I'm like, not at all. Because the choice has already been made. You have a heartbeat. You have a spark of divinity in you. I already love you. Period. Yeah. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to evaluate it. I don't have to go, well, do you love me? I don't have to think, oh, well, if I say this to her and then she says this to me, then I might back off on my love. No, I love every single person. And it's really easy because there's nobody who is in or out. We're all connected. So that's where the choice came. And again, in the South and other parts of the country too, I know that this exists, but particularly in the South, we're recording this in 2024. There are a lot of people that say, I only vote D or I only vote R. And some of that is, perhaps opportunities for unlearning and relearning. Or I only, worship in this form or whatever. There are all these ways that we expend energy to be divisive, to be polarizing.
Yes.
Or when in actuality, the universe says all 8 billion of us are needed. Like nobody is an accident. Nobody is, nobody is just hanging out on the planet with no passion, with no calling, with no purpose. Right. And so if we want a love-centered world, then all 8 billion of us need to be called to our higher self. And so it's a choice. And so again, I hope you heard that in love, that I went from heart to head.
No, I am totally with you. There's a way whenever I am coaching with people, and we're talking through things, I have this acronym. And it's CTFAR.
Okay.
And it stands for, like the circumstances are what the circumstances are. Our thoughts around those circumstances is what I can change, is what I can work with. I got to deal with my thoughts about what that circumstance is. Just like in your case, it would be the thought about those people. Right. Or individuals and things like that. You're going to love them. That's the circumstances. People are people.
Yes.
And my thought about them is that I am going to love them. It doesn't require anything. I'm just going to love them.
Right.
Because my thoughts is what gives me my feelings, those emotions. You know,
Right.
like depending on how I take my thoughts and where I train them, where I take them to,
That's
and
right.
that is going to cause me to act in a certain way.
Yes.
You know, like I'm going to have these feelings. Those feelings are going to cause me to act. And then after I act, I'm going to have a result.
That's right.
That's that CTFAR.
Yes.
And so it's always about how am I thinking about this?
Mm-hmm.
That's the headspace. I'm with you. I'm with you, Dr. Roz. We sisters, girl.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about, because like you said, sometimes, and I think that's unlearning too, is like sometimes I've always been this way. I've always done this. We've always voted this way. We have always, cooked chicken this way.
Yes. Yes.
You can unlearn any of that.
That's right. That's
and
exactly right.
There's another way.
That's exactly right.
There's possibilities to reimagine everything.
Yes. Yes. And imagine all that you're missing out on when you're just so entrenched on doing it that one way or seeing it that one way. Imagine the love you're missing out on. Imagine the amazing foods you're missing out on. Imagine that. I at one point in my career, I was working on my PhD and I was teaching conversational English to Korean ladies where I live outside of Atlanta. And it is a very large pocket of Korean population. And because of that, then there are Korean car washes and there's Korean car lawn care and there's a Korean senior center. And so they could come thinking, I'm going to learn English, but they were in this community where they really didn't have to learn English. And so they taught me out. And so we did conversational English. Well, this one lady would cook for me every Monday when I would go over there. And it was actually her dad that cooked for me. And I loved this little vegetable that she cooked. And so, or he cooked. And so I asked her what it was. And so she did, Google Translate, and she said, fungi. And I was like, oh, fungi, like part of the mushroom family. Okay, great. I mean, I was in every Korean grocery store. I could not find any mushrooms and whatever. And so anyway, I was really disappointed because these were delicious. Well, it turns out one day I was in H Mart, which is a Korean grocery store here in Swanee. And I just happened to walk by and I was like, oh, there they are. There they are. Well, it's baby bok choy.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's not fungi. So I was in the completely wrong place,
looking for it.
Had I not been open to, baby bok choy, I would have missed out on one of my favorite foods. It is delicious.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
No, you know what? I love that. It reminds me of, you said that she did Google Translate for you, but I live in Tampa, Florida. And here we've got a huge melting pot, Dominican and Cuban and Colombian and, Asian and all kinds of people here. But we went to the Cubano festival. And so we were there and I had the bet because I hadn't had a Cubano sandwich, but I was like, but here in Florida, they've got a festival literally for everything. So anyway, we're at the Cubano festival. And so we had gotten our sandwiches, my husband and my daughter and I. And so we're just kind of sitting on the wall so we could eat. And there was a lady sitting next to her and her husband. They had brought their lawn chairs. And so they were sitting there. And I just turned to her and said, oh my goodness. I was like, you guys did the right thing. You guys brought your lawn chairs and you knew exactly what to do. And she said to me, she was like, don't speak English. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, okay, well, so what I do is I got my Google Translate.
Yes.
And just said, and so I spoke into it and said, you guys did the right thing bringing your chairs or whatever. Yes. And it translated, and I showed it to her on my phone.
Yes.
And she face lit up. That's
right.
You know what I mean? Like
That's
she
right.
was, and I was like, you know what? Don't. Yes. And so I posted on Facebook and was like, don't let anything get in the way of how you communicate.
That's right. That's right. And NG, you because listening to your former shows, to get ready for this, it was like I just found myself leaning in, like I couldn't wait to be on with you because you create a space here in this podcast where you see people and also you help your listeners see so many possibilities. And that's just a tiny little example where you saw this woman and you wanted to convey something to her, and it took you a few extra steps. And because of that, you demonstrated this amazing love to her. You know, she'll remember that the rest of her life, that this lady went out of her way to tell her, hey, you brought some chairs. That was a great idea. You know?
I know. I wish I had done it. I wish I had.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Next time you will bring your chairs. And then
I
you'll
will.
sit chairs and eat 2 cubanos.
Right.
So, yes.
Girl, listen, that sandwich was all that. It really was. As a matter of fact, I might have to get me one for dinner tonight. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm like, you know what? That might be what I'm gonna have on the menu tonight.
Exactly.
But I think that's really what makes life, you know, really worth living in. Kind of the, you know, like even Dr. King's life. I mean, he lived it, you know, for everybody else. Like I think about, you know, all of the amazing things that I've been able to do growing up, having come behind him.
Yes.
Right. And all the work that he did, and those others, that all the things that they were able to do that paved a way for me, for others that look like me. And, you know, and it's just, it has made such a difference. I am so, girl, listen, you see, we're about to run out of time.
Yes.
I can't even believe that it's been,
it's been
that much time.
Yeah.
So, all right. But before we bring the show to a close, I always ask every guest, what do you tell change makers? Give me your big 3 for the change makers out there.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. The first one is 1 hour a day is 4% of your day. And my challenge is, where are you going to spend that hour? So obviously in the Debt Free Degree Club or the Debt Free Degree students, it is looking at thinking about strategizing for your debt free degree, 1 hour a day, every day. For me, it is studying and reading Dr. King. So even though I'm a certified trainer, I still study him 1 hour a day, every single day. It's 4% of my day. So it's simply asking, where are you going to put this 4%? And the other thing in terms of change maker, and I've been saying this to parents in the last month, and I've really seen folks talking about, that's an excellent idea. So I wanted to share it here. And that is, if you're having conversations at home about college, particularly that junior and senior year, then I really strongly encourage families to put it on the calendar. And that's the window that you talk about it. So we're not talking about it every day. We're not talking about it at every interaction. We're not talking about it at every meal. We're not talking about it. What are you going to do? What are you going to major in? Where are you going to go? You know, it's so much pressure on our students. And we as family members are trying to convey love.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we try to convey that love or convey that exuberance or convey that I'm so excited for you, it's also putting pressure on them, or they're not in the bandwidth. I remember there was a period of time where I got remarried. And so we moved about 30 minutes away from Alexander's middle school. So I had 30 minutes in the car with him every morning and every afternoon. And I was really intentional that if there was something I wanted to say to him, that I wouldn't talk about it when we left the driveway, because then he'd be like, oh my gosh, she's going to talk about this for 30 minutes and I'm stuck in this car with her. So I would know, like, there's 10 minutes. I'm about to get off the exit. We got 10 more minutes, and I might just like float it out there, and he knew instinctively, okay, I don't have to talk about this for very long. And so it's just reimagining those conversations where you can really think about it. The other thing is too, I had a student share with me that she was really struggling because when she would get mail from these hoop-de-doo schools, then her parents would be like, you got something from, you know, fill in the blank. You know, she would get mail from the state school. It'd be like, okay. However, the state school was her path to a debt-free degree. And so ultimately, even though she got into those hoop-de-doo schools, it was going to be the hoop-de-doo bill too.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes we don't always understand what we're conveying with our nonverbals, you know, and so, yeah.
Awesome. Listen, girl, we'll have to bring you back. We're just going to have to. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on and sharing. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure, and you guys will have all of her details. Elizabeth, give them the website where they can go and they can learn a little more about the Debt Free Degree and all of that.
Yes. So I thank you so much, because I forgot to mention that. So I have a landing page for you all, and I'll send it to you, Michelle, so you can put it in the show notes. So it's DrRoz.love. All of my website, all of my pages are .love. And so DrRoz.love / I think it's Reimagine You Lab podcast. So I'll get you the correct link. But in there, you have the first chapter of the Debt Free Degree book. You have that for free. And then an invitation to my free webinars. And the free webinars that I do twice a month, you can attend as often as you want to. I do laser coaching at the end of each one of those. And I've got folks that will attend, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And so reach out to me, attend one of the webinars. And if you're interested in starting a club and you just want some curriculum, if you're a youth group, if you're a Girl Scout or Boy Scout troop, if you've already got a group and you're looking for a curriculum to implement, then reach out to me and be delighted to have a conversation.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad. That was the other thing I was going to say, like about the group and the requirements and learning more. You guys, make sure that you guys reach out. I love it. I absolutely love it. We're going to bring this young lady back. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been MG and the Reimagine You Lab podcast. Love you right back, girl.
Love you.
So glad you guys tuned in. Make sure you tune in every Friday. There's a new episode drops. Share this with someone. Listen, this is great info that Dr. Roz shared with us on today. So you guys, if you've got students in middle school, starting at middle school, that you want to help earn their debt-free degree, make sure that you guys reach out. And I will see you back here the next time. Have a great day. Mwah.
Mwah.